There is a confluence of two movements that are occurring now. When these two movements come together, there's great potential towards wholeness. These two movements are occurring in two different sectors of our culture, although they are woven together from pain, curiosity, and with our innate knowing. An enormous feature of this time on Earth, as a result of social media and the changes that we are going through, is the plethora of people who are sharing about their unusual experiences. These include out-of-body experiences called OBEs, Kundalini experience, near-death experiences called NDEs, vivid, unexplainable dreams, often where the person is challenged to reintegrate into their life because they feel the experience was more real than this ordinary reality. And there are also mystical experiences, which can occur at any time in a person's life. And many people who are dying fit into the category of having a mystical experience as well. Other occurrences that people have are seeing visions, seeing and communicating with those who have passed, some of which are ghosts or beings that others do not accept are present, connection with beings not of this earth that are mostly referred to as extra-terrestrials, but some people call saints, angels, she, spirit guides, and other names, and then there's also other phenomena. I call all of these different and collective experiences heightened awareness or heightened experiences, and Western culture is challenged to accept and explain them because all of the heightened experiences are, most of the time, considered in need of a medical intervention, or they fit into a diagnosis for medication, not looking at the origin of the symptoms and experiences and what they really mean. It's widely understood medical professionals and most of the time mental health professionals are not the people to go to, but who does a person go to? I'll answer that question as we go along. This surge of discussion about all of these heightened experiences and events is normal because human beings have, throughout our history on Earth, never stayed in only one level of consciousness or relied upon the state we call ordinary reality. People have interfaced with levels of reality that we now call different brainwave states, where the heart rate and breathing also simultaneously change. When we acknowledge these other states of consciousness, then the iron grip on our perception of time changes, as well as the limitations of this dimension and who we are or who we are not. The other movement occurring simultaneously is spiritual emergence. To clarify, spiritual emergence is a movement that recognizes characteristics and features of a mental health incident or emergency, which often results in a significant diagnosis like schizophrenia or psychosis, are people going through a spiritual crisis. Instead of pathologicalizing the features, the movement changes the perspective of interpretation. This perspective is based on looking at other ancient cultures who recognize these same characteristics and features are signs the person is accessing different levels of consciousness and having challenges integrating their experience. In ancient cultures, people with these episodes are trained and prepared by their local wise person or shaman to navigate these realms as a contribution to their community. And because their abilities are significant for their community, instead of diagnosing the person, is guided to discover the benefits of their experience. Looking at any of the large category of mental health diagnosis is an opportunity to discover what the message is telling the person is a huge shift in itself, and applying that message to anything that we encounter that we consider negative helps us benefit from it. Another enormous shift is not pathologicalizing someone's symptoms. Also, many people have some kind of trauma that precedes the mental health visit, which is very often never examined. A good introduction to this is the work of Phil Borges on TED Talks. Another aspect of the spiritual emergence is the international network called Spiritual Emergency Network, available now in many countries. Professionals sign up to be available on the network in the country they are in, and if someone is lucky enough to find this network, they can find people in their area of the world and part of the country who have a background and qualifications to help them understand and navigate. The Spiritual Emergence Network is the beginning of looking at crisis instead of as a medical sentence of more drugs with multiple side effects, some of which cause permanent damage to the brain and system, and managing those side effects, possible residential treatment or institutionalization, and the shame for the person and the family. Often people who have these diagnoses have trauma and experiences that are outside of the cultural paradigm. When people shift in and out of ordinary consciousness, there are changes in their physiology, in their perception of reality and cognition, and there are changes in their etheric spiritual body as well. Navigating these shifts is the part that is especially challenging to master in cultures that don't permit such changes that disrupt, quote, normal, unquote, expectations for our functioning from birth to our deaths. An example is different people who share their near-death experiences. I've listened to many people, and they indicate often it takes a significant amount of time for them to come to terms with their near-death experience, sometimes more than 20 years, and even longer to share it with other people. The International Association for Near-Death Studies shows only 1.5% of people have had a near-death experience. These are the ones who are brave enough to report it. And for those people who are reporting their story, it's likely they still edit out much of their experience due to the cultural biases that would consider their stories too out there. Therefore, having parameters and a map for other people and ourselves who are going through these experiences are critical methods for successful navigation of our cultural paradigm shift into managing these changes. It's helpful to look at people who have successfully navigated and drew upon these other realms. An interesting example of the paradox of a famous person who was a scientist is Johannes Kepler, the famous astronomer, a revered scientist, little knowing if he were alive today, he would receive ridicule and shame out of his accomplishments because of his intuitive abilities, experiences, research, and writings. Johannes Kepler lived from 1571 to 1630. The Kitt Peak Observatory, a renowned astronomical research center outside of Tucson, Arizona, has a large plaque inside of their welcoming center dedicating their center to Kepler as the father of astronomy. Although Kepler is also famous for his other work, which is not in conflict with science then as it is today, Kepler wrote The Harmony of the World, a doctrine about the relationships of music and sacred geometrical forms in the planetary bodies. He described the polyharmonic sounds of each planet in their orbit with the sun and the changes of the harmonic sounds during their orbit through the sky. Kepler was advanced in his expertise to decipher and understand each unique sound of the planets in our solar system separate from the other planets, how the sounds changed, in addition to sacred geometrical forms and relationships, all off limits and taboo topics for scientists of today. Today, Kepler would be ostracized and likely medicated and institutionalized if hearing the harmonic sounds of the orbits of planets, and we would never know about Kepler's contributions as an astronomer. Beyond this, we are innately searching for meaningful levels of functioning since our current state of consciousness resides and relies mostly in the realm of brainwaves, alpha state, that keeps us hypervigilant, stuck, and unhappy. This hypervigilant state is killing us because it lacks empathy and it has jacked up heart rates and hyperalertness. People have known throughout history seeking and traversing different levels of consciousness is not only critical for making sense of the world, but also that we need this access to evolve, discover, heal, and successfully survive. These states of consciousness are the opposite of the hypervigilance and brainwaves that are counterproductive for us. And navigating different states of consciousness are part of our humanness. Human beings have navigated different states of consciousness for thousands of years. We are, and always have, experienced more than one reality, and it is part of our mental, emotional, etheric, spiritual wellness that contributes to our physical health. When people shift in and out of ordinary consciousness, there are changes in their physiology, perception, and cognition. And there are changes in their etheric spiritual body as well. Navigating these shifts is the part that is especially challenging to master in cultures that don't permit such changes, that disrupt, quote, normal, quote, expectations for our functioning from birth to our deaths. Having parameters and a map as methods are critical for the successful navigation of our cultural paradigm shift into managing these changes. Looking at people who have gone beyond surviving and excelled with using their heightened abilities gives credence to the historical value and strength, heightened awareness, and experiences showing these are not pathologies. The Me Too movement, the LGBTQ movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, and the movements to come that represent other marginalized people is part of releasing the pathologicalizing. Recently, I attended a lecture where a woman had a Kundalini awakening. She was so extremely fortunate to have had the guidance from her religious community leader who recognized she had a mystical experience. She was not referred to mental health services, but slowly, over almost 20 years, integrated and understood her experience. But we don't have to wait so long to know what is happening, because there are methods that work with the physical body, the emotions, thoughts, and the spiritual and etheric bodies, because we need people with these experiences. The next video in this series focuses on particular people and women with remarkable mystical abilities and explains more about how they integrate into their time period and who changed history. As a mystic and spiritual teacher, my experiences, studies, writings, and teachings are the result of traversing different states of heightened awareness, integration, going deeper, and healing. In the Full Circle program, learn how to integrate and expand heightened awareness and experiences. Discover how you can notice, go deeper, support your own and other people's mystical and heightened experiences. You can sign up now for the Full Circle program, available at twi.education under the Free Resources tab at Full Circle at twi.education. Thanks for listening from Dr. Susan Sophia James and Transformational Wisdom Institute at twi.education, and please subscribe.